William Ruto. To his supporters, a symbol of resilience and the hustler-in-chief. But to countless families grieving loved ones and to citizens living in fear, he is a leader whose regime has been marked by negligence and terror. Under his watch, Kenya's streets have grown darker and the cries for justice louder. This is a story of power, fear, and the human cost of political ambition. A climate of fear, ongoing abductions and killings. Kenya is bleeding. From the bustling streets of Nairobi to the quiet villages, a shadow of fear looms large. Under William Ruto's administration, abductions and killings have escalated to alarming levels. Bodies of missing persons are turning up in dump sites and rivers, battered and lifeless. Others remain unaccounted for, leaving families in agonizing uncertainty. Who is behind this reign of terror? Many point fingers at rogue state operatives, acting with impunity under a regime accused of turning a blind eye to justice. Ruto's government has repeatedly failed to offer answers, and the silence is deafening. Are these heinous acts merely collateral in a quest for political control, or do they expose a deeper rot at the heart of Kenya's leadership? The forgotten victims. Names and faces fade into statistics, but their stories haunt the nation. Abductees like the ones whose bodies were found dumped in the Ngong forest, or those dragged from their homes in the dead of night, remain symbols of a broken system. What about the countless Kenyans whose whereabouts are still unknown? Mothers clutch their children's photos, begging for answers, while fathers dig through bureaucratic walls, seeking justice that never comes. Under Ruto's leadership, the plight of these families has been overshadowed by political rhetoric and hollow promises. Ruto's neglect, governance under fire. The Constitution declares that every Kenyan has a right to security and protection, but under William Ruto, these rights feel like a distant dream. Crime thrives in an environment where leaders prioritize power over people. Ruto has built a narrative of being a leader for the common Mwananchi, yet his government's failure to curb insecurity speaks volumes. His administration's resources flow freely toward political campaigns and grand projects, but the cries of families searching for loved ones remain unanswered. Is this the legacy of a hustler-in-chief, or the hallmarks of a regime that has lost its moral compass? Political power and its price. Critics argue that Ruto's administration uses fear as a tool, silencing dissent and controlling narratives. Reports of state-sponsored terror, forced disappearances, and politically motivated violence are piling up. Kenya has become a land where those who dare to speak out risk becoming statistics themselves. From activists to journalists, the message is clear. Silence is safer than resistance. But at what cost to the nation's democracy? A leader's responsibility or indifference? While Ruto stands on podiums preaching unity and economic prosperity, his government's inaction speaks louder. Where is the justice for victims of state violence? Why are families still digging through trash heaps and mortuaries, searching for answers? For a leader who claims to be a man of faith and family, the reality on the ground is starkly different. The question is no longer whether Ruto is aware of the suffering under his rule, but why he chooses to do so little about it. Kenya is at a crossroads. The ongoing abductions and killings have revealed a government detached from the pain of its people. William Samoei Ruto's administration must face the truth. The lives of Kenyans are not pawns in a game of power. For every family grieving, for every voice silenced, for every life stolen, justice must prevail. And as long as the people of Kenya demand answers, the fight for accountability will never end. Countering William Ruto's hold on office now or in 2027 would require Kenyans to employ a strategic, lawful, and collective approach. Here's a roadmap for action. Strengthen civil advocacy and grassroots mobilization. Organize peaceful protests and demonstrations. Why? Protests demonstrate public dissatisfaction and pressure the government to address grievances. How? Work with civil society organizations to organize peaceful, nationwide protests against insecurity, corruption, and the high cost of living by staying at home. When you stay at home, you will not be abducted, you will not be killed, and we will all be safe. No vehicles should be on the Kenyan roads. except for essential services only. Key tip: ensure protests remain nonviolent to maintain legitimacy, and avoid giving the government an excuse to crack down. Use tear gas, abduct, and kill. Mobilize grassroots movements. Build community-driven movements that educate and empower citizens to demand accountability. Engage youth, women, and marginalized groups who are often overlooked, and all Gen Zs in political decision-making. Demand institutional accountability. Pressure independent oversight bodies. Push for formation of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IBC). If the government is unwilling, then there is why it can be formed later after our agenda has been forced through. Push institutions like the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IBC), Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission (EACC), and the judiciary to uphold transparency and justice. Advocate for international oversight in high-stakes elections and investigations by International Criminal Court (ICC) into government misconduct. Monitor state funds and resources. Work with NGOs and independent auditors to track how public funds are used since Ruto took power. Expose misuse and demand prosecution of officials involved in graft. Let all involved in the squander of our economy have their property auctioned and money stuffed in offshore accounts be brought back to recover the ailing economy. Unify the opposition. Build a united front. Encourage opposition leaders to form a single coalition with clear policies, a unified agenda, and a viable candidate for the next election. Avoid divisive politics or regional biases that weaken their ability to compete against Ruto's machinery. Remember, he's in charge of the government machinery. Develop a visionary manifesto. The opposition must offer practical, people-centered solutions to Kenya's pressing issues, such as insecurity, unemployment, and the rising cost of living. Use digital media as a weapon. Amplify public voices online. Social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube should be used to highlight injustices, expose corruption, and demand accountability. Encourage hashtags and campaigns to raise awareness globally and locally. Combat propaganda. Counter government propaganda by spreading factual information through credible sources. Partner with independent media to ensure accurate reporting. Challenge Ruto's legitimacy through legal means. Pursue impeachment efforts. Work with opposition members of parliament (MPs) to initiate impeachment proceedings if there is evidence of gross misconduct or constitutional violations. Use of civil uprising would be the best weapon. This requires extensive lobbying and evidence collection. File petitions and cases. Utilize courts to challenge illegal or unconstitutional actions taken by the administration. Human rights abuses, electoral misconduct, and corruption are potential grounds. Advocate for electoral reform. Push for comprehensive electoral overhaul. Demand reforms to address electoral malpractices, such as vote buying, rigging, and manipulation of voter rolls. Insist on electronic votes transmission. Push for greater transparency in vote tallying and result transmission systems. Secure international observers. Lobby for international election observers to monitor future elections and ensure fairness. Focus on civic education. Educate citizens about their rights. Conduct campaigns to teach Kenyans about their constitutional rights and how to hold leaders accountable. Emphasize the power of voting as a tool for change. B. Promote issue-based voting. Shift the narrative from tribal or personality-based politics to policy-driven voting. Encourage Kenyans to prioritize competence, integrity, and vision over loyalty. Build alliances with global partners. Leverage international pressure. Collaborate with international organizations such as the UN, ICC, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch to draw attention to Kenya's issues. Engage global media to amplify concerns about Ruto's governance failures. Sanctions and diplomatic pressure. Advocate for targeted sanctions against government officials implicated in corruption or human rights abuses. Prepare for the next election. Establish transparent candidate vetting. Ensure only candidates with proven integrity, competence, and leadership skills are nominated for key positions. Eliminate political cronies and opportunists who undermine reform efforts. Mobilize voter turnout. A low turnout often favors incumbents. Encourage citizens to register, vote, and safeguard their choices during elections. Foster economic resilience. Create alternative economic solutions. Encourage community-level economic empowerment to reduce dependency on government aid, which Ruto's regime often uses to manipulate loyalty. Support cooperative movements, small businesses, and innovation hubs. Build self-sustaining movements. Financial independence strengthens advocacy. Use crowdfunding platforms or international support to sustain civil action campaigns. Unity is the key. No single entity can dismantle the grip of an entrenched regime. To counter William Ruto's hold on power, Kenyans must come together across ethnic, political, and social lines to demand accountability, transparency, and justice. By leveraging the power of collective action, legal frameworks, and grassroots mobilization, a brighter future for Kenya can be forged. Remember, the people's will is stronger than any administration. It's time to stand up for Kenya, for the present, and for generations to come. This has been a critical exploration of the ongoing crisis under William Samoei Ruto's presidency. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and never stop demanding the truth. For more stories and investigations, subscribe and join us as we uncover the untold. In the comments section, please indicate what percentage you think Ruto can garner if elections were to be held today.
Hey everyone, just a reminder. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Your support really helps the channel grow, and it means the world to me. I promise to keep bringing you even better and more interesting videos. Stay tuned, and let's make this journey amazing together.